All right, so first and foremost, I'm going to start off by saying Brakathon, Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shah. And I want to give all on their glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, and Kakadash. Double honors unto the apostles, elders of Great Millstone. And shout out to the hopeful left, starting with the 144,000. Shalom. All right, so this is part two, going into that the Great Diaspora, right? And understanding, you know, how how we were scattered all over, right? So we went into the part one, you know, about the first temple being took down by the Babylonians, right? And we went into a little bit of the second temple being took down, right? But I wanted to, in part two, because I had mentioned Vespasian, Domitian, Titus, and Domitian, right? And I wanted to go into a little bit of that because we understand it, right? This is all prophecy leading up to, all that led up to Deuteronomy 28:68, and that's being brought here to Americas where, we're going to be delivered from, right? So let's get into it, right? So I got it right here. Why was they protesting? Because we understand it that Nero sent at the time, uh, Vespasian was a general, and Nero had sent Vespasian to Jerusalem because there was a lot of revolts going on, right? And it said during the reign of the Roman Emperor Nero, right, Jerusalem and Judea were in turmoil, leading to a series of Jewish revolts against the Roman rule. The initial classes were fueled by Greek and Jewish religious tension, with some historians uh, attributing a significant role to Nero policies, right? And we believe that Trump is a reincarnation of Nero. Look at how Trump causing all this chaos and whatnot. You see these things, right? Nothing new under the sun, man, right? So going from there, when you understand it, so after Nero ruled, 69 AD come in, the 69 AD come in, you had the year of the four emperors, right? You had the year of the four emperors. You had Galba, Otho, Vitellius, and Vespasian, right? And we're gonna go into that, right? Got it right here, Second Ezra, right? 11, right? Because it's all gonna lead up to the Romans end up coming into Jerusalem, right? That within that Great Diaspora as well, right? Matter of fact, what I need to do is right. Let's look into that again, right? So the Great Diaspora generally refers to a widespread dispersion of Jewish people from the ancestral homeland of Israel, beginning with the Babylonian exile in the 6th century. Right? We talked about that in part one, right? And continuing after the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE by the Romans, this dispersion resulted in the formation of Jewish communities across the globe, known as the Jewish diaspora, right? Which we're going into. The term can also be used, all right. But point being is, right, this is going into, how our people was getting scattered all over, man, right? So getting back into it, right? Second Ezra 11, we'll start at verse 26, right? And it says, "Behold, and lo, there was one set up," and this is going into the year of the four emperors, right? It says, "Behold, and lo, there was one set up, but shortly it appeared no more." That's Galba, right? Yeah, that's Galba, right? And it says, and the second one was sooner away than the first, right? It's Ortho, right? This is the 12 Caesars. You got the 12 feathers and the three heads, right? The three heads, the one in the midst is Julius Caesar. Then you got Crassus and Pompey, right? Lord willing. Got what it is, like verse 4. Khan, yep. You have Pompey, yep, Khan, right? So to continue reading, right, it says, "And behold, and lo, there were two that remained, thought also in themselves to reign," and that's Vitellius and Vespasian, right? So and then Vespasian is going to lead into the Flavian dynasty, which was going, which is going to show a lot, right? And it says, "And when they thought so, behold, there awakened one of the heads that were at rest." And the heads that was at rest was what? The three heads was Julius Caesar in the middle, which we just talked about, Crassus and Pompey. But Julius Caesar in the middle because the middle head was more powerful, more fierce, more, is want to say, powerful than the others, right? It was better than the other ones, right? And they thought Julius Caesar was, they came against him because they thought he was bringing in that dictatorship rulership, because how much the people love him, how much fame and power he had throughout Rome, right? And, that's what leading to, the voting, the things and whatnot, the Senate, things and whatnot, which America got from Rome, which America is that revised Roman Empire today, right? What it says, namely, it was that was in the midst, which is Julius Caesar. So Vespasian was the reincarnation of Julius Caesar, for that was greater than the two other heads, right? And I saw that two other heads were joined with it, Titus and Domitian, right? And it's going into the Flavian dynasty, right? It says, behold, the head was turned with them that were with it, and did eat up the two feathers on the wing that would have reigned, right? And that's Vespasian, right? Vespasian coming to power, knocking off Vitellius, right? And it's what was that? Slacky. Okay. Verse 32, right? And it says, Slacky, I want to go in more on that because when you understand it, right? These two heads, they thought it would reign was who? Vitellius and Vespasian. But Vespasian ended up becoming emperor, right? He ended up becoming emperor as you read verse 1. And behold, the head was turned with them that were with it, right? And did eat up the two feathers under the wing that would have reigned, right? And it says, but this head put the whole earth in fear, right? It's Vespasian, right? And bear rule in it over all those that dwell upon the earth, which much oppression, and it had the governance over the world more than all the wings that had been. So Vespasian, he come, it's that Flavian dynasty. He come with that destruction, man. Right? He was putting hell on Jake. Right? He was putting hell on Jake. He was putting Jake through it. Right? So let's go to right here, right? This is why history matters, man, because we understand, and this is the mercy that's upon us right now from Yahweh Shah for us to understand these things and understand how we got over here and why we over here, for us to correct ourselves and do it right, rehearse that righteous act, right, to be delivered from here, right? So this is we're gonna go to page 84, right, and then it's called From Babylon to Timbuktu, right? And then we're going to start it right here in the part where it says, in the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem. In 70 AD, General Vespasian, right, and his son Titus, right, put an end to the Jewish state with great slaughter. During the period of military governors of Palestine, many outrageous atrocities were committed, right? And we're going to Palestine, right, because I got right here in my notes, right, and I wanted to read, the bottom of this, I want you to see, right? What was I? Oh yeah, right here. The Jewish rebellion during Nero's time was ultimately suppressed by the Romans after a long and devastating war. Vespasian and his son Titus were sent by Nero to quell the revolt. After Nero's death, Vespasian became emperor, and Titus continued the campaign, right? Ultimately, because after Nero's death, 69 AD, had the year of 4 emperors, where 4 emperors ruled. It shows you how the Most High was hollering them, man. Most High was getting rid of Most High. It was all prophecy, but prophecy being fulfilled, right? And it says Vespasian became emperor, and Titus continued the campaign, ultimately destroying Jerusalem and the Second Temple in 70 CE, right? So going back to here real fast, right? General Pompey captured Jerusalem in 70 AD. General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to the Jewish state with great slaughter during the period of the military governors of Palestine, right? I got right here in my notes when you understand it that, right, it says, yes, ancient Jerusalem in 70 AD was located in the region that's known as Palestine today, right? In 70 AD, the Roman general Titus besieged and destroyed Jerusalem during the First Jewish War. At that time, the region was referred as Judea, which is Yehuda in Hebrew, right? And when you understand it, right? So and also, right, got a quick precept real. Verse 12, it's like in verse 10, right? And it says, beaten pain and labor to bring forth, O daughter of Zion, like a woman in travail. Now, out of the city was that city, Palestine, right? Because we was 70 AD, we was chased out of our land, right? We were thrown out of our land, man, right? As we're gonna continue reading in the article, he said, "Thou shalt dwell in the field." Was that field? That field is Africa, right? And all the other places we scattered, but mainly Africa, man, right? And thou shalt even go into Babylon, leading to Deuteronomy 28:68, right? And there shalt thou be delivered, right? Over here in America, we're going to be delivered because America is what? Babylon, spiritual Sodom and Egypt. We're going to be delivered from this place, right? It's all prophecy that led up to us being over here. But the point being in all this, me talking about the Great Diaspora, is understanding that those Gentiles, right? Those Gentiles, right, are the Israelites, because we was always amongst these other nations, right? We was in captivity amongst these other nations, and as time went on, our people continue. We're gonna get to it, but our people continue to move farther away from land, and they whacking, and they end up learning and taking on the customs and ways of the other nations, right? So it says, and thou shalt be delivered. There the Lord Yahweh shall redeem thee from the hand of thine enemies, right? Right. So going back to the article, right? It says, during the period of the military governors of Palestine, right, many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people during the period from Pompey to Julius. It has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa, fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery, and the slave markets were full of black Jewish slaves, right? And I want to get to the part. It's like it's also a part in here that talks about how they were disrespecting how about they was making the Jews eat pork all type, because you had many the ones who stayed, they were slaughtered, right? You had many that stayed, right? You got many that got away. You had ones that stayed and ones that willingly stayed and did the things of what the Romans told them to do, right? So going from there, right? I'm gonna go to Revelation 12 and 14, because we understand once again it's that great diaspora with the Romans coming and pushing our people out of our land, right? And once they push our people out of our land, people were scattered all over, going here, going there. We was scattered all over, right? Is Revelation 12 and 14, right? It says, until the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle. Who was that woman? That woman's talking about Israel, right? It says that she might fly into the wilderness, right, into her place where she is nourished for a time and a half, for a time and times and a half a time from the face of the serpent. Who's that serpent, right? That serpent is Edomites, man, the Romans, man, right? Because why? They came in the flood, right? I'll read down, I'm gonna break this down more, right? That woman is that great eagle is that swift deliverance, because we were scattered out to the wilderness, right? That wilderness is Africa, man. As we just read, you had 1 million Jews fled into Africa, man, right? I got some notes right here I want to read, right? Right? That this is a different eagle, that swift deliverance, the one that got away. Not all Israel got away, many died, right? It says a lot was thrown in gladiator pits, mauled by lions, these type things, right? Some escaped, went into Africa and dwelt there. And later on, the transatlantic slave trade, man, was Deuteronomy 28:68, right? It says, time and times and a half a time goes into the period when we was in Africa until we got taken away by those Edomites again, Deuteronomy 28:68, right? Us being brought on ships from Africa over here to Babylon, right? Micah 4 and 12, right? Us being brought on ships over here to Babylon, right? Being enslaved, right? And it says also in that time in Africa, that's when the falling away happened. That great diaspora, man. Once we were scattered all over, that falling away came. Second was talking about 2 Thessalonians 2 and verse 3, right? That should not be till the falling away. So the falling away happened first, right? Let's go to that real fast. We're gonna go back to this. 2 Thessalonians 2 and 3 said, "Let no man deceive you that they shall not come," because they trying to think when the Most High gonna come, right? They got people troubling, trying to like he finna come here. They thinking how they're gonna come in their time, but he telling them, right? Let no man deceive you that by any means for that they should not come. So they're coming to falling away first. Was that falling away, right? This great diaspora. Let's read about right here, right? Because as we're gonna get back into the notes, right? After the 4th week, it says also in that time in Africa, that's when the falling away happened. As well as a lot of us lost our heritage. We were still practicing our custom and such. But the further we got away from that land, the whacker we got, to the point we was taken into captivity and completely lost our heritage, man. Right? This verse 15 says, and the serpent, right, which is who Esau Edom. Because going back to the garden, man, that man, that mountain man with the evil spirit on him, which later came on to Cain, which came right when the flood came back through Esau Edom, right? It said, and that serpent was cast out of his mouth, water as a flood after the woman. What is that flood? The Roman armies, man, right? And that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. Man, it's all right here in the notes, man. That flood is the armies, man, right? It says, and the earth helped the woman. What is that earth? Right? The earth is the wilderness, Africa. We've been scattered all over, man. Right? And the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood with the dragon cast out of his mouth, right? So this referring to the Israelites fleeing the Romans, right? The earth helped the woman, us fleeing here, us fleeing there, but mainly Africa, right? It says, and the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which kept the commandments of Yahweh and have the testimony of Mashiach Yahushua, because Yahushua told him these things as well, though, right? It happened to 7 AD, today as well, right? Seeing how hard to prove that came back in the day, right? It's gonna be 10 times worse, right? But seeing the point being is seeing how how that great diaspora came about, man, right? With the Roman armies coming in and just slaughtering and going crazy at Jerusalem, right? And one of the key things they had to do, they knew they had to do to take down Jerusalem was sack the temple, right? And that's the same thing they're trying to do today, because now we're building we're building that third temple, which is a spiritual temple, and we're those building blocks, right? We're those building blocks, and to building that spiritual temple, right? And now that we understand it, how these Christians or whatnot, all these people try to make as if these Gentiles or these Gentiles or that's referred to in the Bible is the other nations, the other people. No, this is talking about the Israelites who are amongst the other nations, right? Because when you go to it, Deuteronomy 28:60, right, that was a curse put upon our people for not following the laws and commandments. I'm gonna read 28:15 real fast. Says, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken to the voice of the Lord thy power, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee, overtake thee, right? That's why Yahushua was telling them, hey, you don't get right, man, these curses gonna come upon you. Daniel chapter 9, right, verse 11, verse 12, or Daniel chapter 9 in that chapter, right, verse 11 and 12, when he talk about, the curses come upon you, and it's gonna be a great evil. That great evil was the Roman armies coming in, right? And one of those curses also that is going to come upon us is what? Deuteronomy 28:64, right? And it reads, it says, and the Lord shall scatter thee among all people. And that's where our people get lost at, in the Gentile state of mind, man. Right? It says, from one end of the earth even to the other. And thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone, Christianity, Muslim, right? They do all these things because Jake in that Gentile state of mind. But as we read in part 1, Isaiah 42, right? I put my spirit upon him that he should be a light to the Gentiles. But merely paraphrasing, that's Yahweh sending Yahushua with the light to bring us back into the remembrance, man. He brought us back into the remembrance, right? Brought us back into the remembrance to understand who we are, right? Understand our true history, not the history that Esau professed to know. Our true history, right? It's Baruch 2:29. It said, if you will not hear my voice, surely this very great multitude shall return to a small number among the nations, right? And all Israel is going to be brought back together, but it's going to happen through the elect, because the elect are the ones who obtain this knowledge and understand it, man. The elect are the ones who retain this and don't reject it, understand who we are as a people, right? We understand who those Gentiles are. See, they don't have this. See, Esau or Jake don't have the spirit of Habashin Yahushua to understand that. They understand the great diaspora, how people are scattered all amongst all these people, right? A nation of the speckled bird, nation like unto a speckled bird. That's why, you got the tares and the wheats, man. You got Jake who look like Edomites, and you got Edomites who look like Jake. We look like everybody, man, right? Because the pedigree go from your father, right? But it says, this very great multitude shall be turned to a small number among the nations where I will scatter them. For I knew they would not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people. But in the land of their captives they shall remember themselves. In the land of their captives they shall remember themselves. And that's what we're doing today. We're being brought back to remember. That's why our true history being brought back into us, man. We understanding like things like the Great Diaspora, who these Gentiles were, right? Because when you go to first, as we read, they was persecuting the ones who believed in Habashin Yahushua. They want to try to force them to believe in their ways, right? You had Jake who believed in the way of the Greeks. You had the Hellenists, right? You had Jake who was following after the Romans, right? We read Paul, right? It's 1 Corinthians 12:2, right? It said, ye know that you were Gentiles carried away into these dumb idols, even as you were led, right? Right, let's right here in the notes, right? Gentiles mean the Latin word gentius, which means foreigner, foreign to our nationality. Right, that great diaspora, the further we got away from our land, the whacker we got. We started falling away with the custom of these other nations, because it became easier for Jake. And it became easier just to fall into the ways of other people instead of going through that hardship. That's why the elect understand it, enduring that suffering, enduring that pain, enduring the things that come with this truth. Because we put ourselves in this position, but Yahweh gave us the tools to overcome this as well. Right? That's that mercy he put upon us. See, Jake take his mercy for granted, man. Jake take the mercy for granted. Jake loved this world. That's why Scripture tell you, it says, love not the world nor either things in the world, because all that's in the world is the lust of eyes, the lust of flesh. Right? See, when Yahweh and the angels come, they're going to handle the physical part on each side. It's for us to stay strong mentally, man, through the spirit. Right? Galatians 5:16 on down. Right? The spirit lusts against the flesh against the spirit. These are contrary to one another, really paraphrasing. These are opposite, man. They not. The things that are of the spirit are life, right? The kingdom, the righteousness of Yahweh Shai. The spirit gonna live forever. We're gonna be changed to spiritual bodies, but Jake don't understand it because he's in a Gentile state of mind, right? But even Paul, even Paul had to play it off, right? Let's see, Acts 22:25. It says, as they bound him with thongs, Paul said, or as they chained him up and tied him up, right? Paul said unto the centurion that stood by, it is lawful for you to scourge a man. Centurion is like a little Roman guard or whatnot. Is it lawful for you to scourge a man that is Roman and uncondemned? Is it right for you to hurt or come or to wrongfully judge a Roman citizen that that ain't done nothing wrong, right? It's right for you. It's right for you to do that. But what? But didn't Paul say in Romans, right, 11:1, he did not say, I say then, Yahweh cast away his people. Yahweh forbid. For I am also an Israelite of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin. See, Paul know he's an Israelite, but he understands the fact that we was Gentiles, who was foreigners under these other, we were Gentiles, right? We were foreigners. We were foreigners under these other nations, foreigners under the other people, right? And more we got, and amongst the other people, we start losing our nationality, losing our way. But once again, that's being brought back to us now, right? It's being brought back into us now. Right, but the Great Diaspora was a key part of that falling away. That's why you have Jake so lost. But that's why Yahweh said his remnant. Right, that's why he said the rest were blinded, but that remnant that shall obtain it. The elect gonna understand these things and have knowledge of Yahweh to know that we're those Gentiles. Those Gentiles are referring to the Israelites in that Gentile state of mind. Once again, you got the Hellenists who's caught up in the Greek life. Hellenists, right? Who was caught up in the Greek life, right? Things of that such. Right, but that was the Great Diaspora was also prophecy as well, because as you see it led us to going to Africa, right? In Deuteronomy 28:68, it led us being brought over here on ships to where what? As we read Micah 2, it says you're gonna be delivered, right? In the uttermost parts, where we're gonna be delivered from, man. It was ultimately all prophecy, right? But everything had to be fulfilled first, right? That Great Diaspora had to happen, right? What is it? James 1, right? James 1 and 1, it says, James, a servant of Yahweh and of the Lord Yahweh Shah Mashiach, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad. Greeting, right? We are scattered abroad. We're scattered all over, right? But that's why Yahweh sent Yahweh Shah down here as that light to get out of this dark kingdom, to get out of this darkness way, right? He brought us to a light. Let's go back to that Isaiah 42. Right here, Isaiah 42:6. It said, I, the Lord, have called thee in righteousness. Right? Talking about Yahweh Shah, because Yahweh gave everything. He gave Yahweh Shah everything in righteousness, right? And will hold thy hand, will keep thee, and give thee for a covenant of the people, for a light of the Gentiles. The Gentiles are Jake, right? Who's Jacob, who's in a Gentile state of mind, who's in a foreign state of mind, right? It says to open the blind eyes, to bring out the prisoners from prison, and them that sit in darkness out of the prison house. Right? It says, I am the Lord Yahweh, that is my name, and my glory I will not give it to another, neither my praise to graven images. Right? Let's see. I want to jump down, right? Because I want to get into how right here, right? I done on verse 17, right? And it says Actually, I'm going to start at verse 16. It says, I will bring the blind by way that they do not. I will lead them in paths that they have not known. I will make darkness light before them and crooked things straight. These things I do unto them and not forsake them, right? Because why? Right? Passage. That's why Yahweh Shai came down here to show it. How Shai came down here to show us that, right? Because that's Matthew 7:13 talk about it as well. Second Ezra chapter 7 talk about it as well too, right? We understand that narrow passage, man. Focus on the vain and straight things because we have the blueprint to go down this road. Right now we have the keys for the car to go down this road, but it's just you gonna remain focused, right? That's the point. That's the point of it all, right? To see who's gonna remain focused, to see who's gonna endure that suffering, purge out the way of this world, purge out the way of the wide gate, man. To get rid of that, mindset, to do the will of Yahweh Shai, right? It says, like I read my notes on this. It says we are witnessing right now. But what we're witnessing right now is the path to righteousness. To get to this, before we get to the kingdom, you got to be commotion and chaos and destruction. After that, the kingdom's done. The kingdom comes, right? We were brought forth out of that blind state. When Yahweh Shai healed that blind man physically, he would do that spiritually over time as well, right? This knowledge had to be retaught. Because now we in remembrance, and how we having was coming to us is that comforter. That's why he said in John 14, right? I will pray the Father leave you another comforter, because Yahweh Shai was that comforter when he was down here for let us know these things, but he left unto us the comforter, which is the Holy Spirit. Now we're able to retain this knowledge and understanding and return back into Yahweh Shai to rehearse that righteous act, right? This verse 17, he said, they shall be turned back, they shall be greatly ashamed that trust in graven images, that say to the molten images, ye are a God. And that's what's gonna happen to Jake, man. Jake gonna be punished, right? They gonna be ashamed for worshiping them false gods, man. Right? When time come, right? When Yahweh Shai and the angels crack the sky, all them guys they come ain't gonna help them, ain't nothing gonna save them. It's gonna be straight judgment for them. Right? He said, hear ye deaf, and look ye blind that ye may see. Who was blind but my servant, or deaf as my messenger that I sent? Who is blind as he that is perfect, and the blind as the Lord's servant? Meaning what? You had the prophets, you had the apostles, we were all blind at one point, right? But now, since we got light, Yahweh Shai, to understand the knowledge of this truth, right? The comfort coming upon us, we're being woken up. We're woken up spiritually, right? I got it right here, man. I'm talking about the prophets, the elect. They were all blind at one point. Now you have Israelites who were blind at one point, but Yahweh Shai called us to understand. Right now, that happens through the comfort that comes to us, right? Let's go to Hebrews real fast. All right, this is Hebrews 1. 1 says, Yahweh, who at sundry times and diverse manners spake in time past unto the fathers by the prophets, hath in these last days spoken to us by his Son, who is that comforter, whom he hath appointed heir of all things, but also whom he made the worlds, right? That comforter, right? The Spirit, Holy Spirit, Yahweh Shai comes upon us and allows us to understand this knowledge, understanding this truth, allows us to understand our true history, our true doctrine, understanding things like these Gentiles or Israelites in a foreign state of mind. That's why he set up watchmen to prophesy and give warning to the people, hey, get out the way of that mindset, right? You're not African American, you're not Puerto Rican, you're not Haitian, you're not Indian, right? You're a Hebrew Israelite, right? You tribe of Ephraim, right? You tribe of Levi, right? Right? You tribe of Issachar, right? You tribe of Gad, right? And that's what he set the watchmen up for, right? But when that Great Diaspora happened, you had a lot of Israel fall away, man, right? But once again, as we read in Baruch 2, right, that remnant shall be turned, that large remnant shall be turned to a small number, that elect, that 144,000 who are going to return back to understand it, right? But understanding that we were scattered amongst all nations. So when you read in the Bible, sometimes they be talking about other nations, like as of here, right? Let's see, John 7, and I want to say it's 35. Right? It says, then said the Jews among themselves, whether will he go, that we should not find him? Right? Will he go into the spur amongst the Gentiles? Right? Will he go amongst the other nations and teach the Gentiles? Will he go amongst other nations and teach the Israelites who are amongst these other nations? Right? But you got to have the spirit of Yahweh Shai to discern that, to understand that. right? Right, I got in my notes. The first Gentiles you'll see is talking about other nations, but the second Gentile word you see is the Israelites. Through the Spirit, we know that when Yahweh refers to the Gentiles as being Israel, he's talking about how they were in a Gentile state of mind, following the other nations, thinking they Greeks, Romans, or some of that such. Just like today, Jake think they African American, they don't know they Israelites, man. Right, but the Great Diaspora caused this. But that's why you got to understand the history, man. Right, you gotta understand the true history, as I should say, right? Romans 15:4. Things are written aforetime for our learning, to place it in comfort, that we might have hope. Because we understand in due time, right, as we read in Micah 4, we're going to be delivered, man. We're going to be delivered. All things will be brought to light, man. The light, Yahweh Shem Yahushua is going to come. We're going to destroy them at the brightness of his coming. Really paraphrasing, right? So with that being said, Lord willing, I hope the lesson was edifying and exalting. And I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, and Kakadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. And shout out to the whole flesh, start with the 144,000. Shalom.